If you think you're ready to buy a house, but you just need a little bit of guidance, I want to give you 10 easy tips for first-time home buyers. Hi, my name is Sarah Vitale. I am a Houston-based real estate agent. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. I hope you'll like and subscribe. If you are not new here, hi, welcome back. Let me get straight into the video because I don't want to waste your time. The first tip that I want to talk about if you are deciding to buy a house is don't be scared of Grandma Pink. That's right, you heard me. Boomers have decided that they need to downsize and are now currently moving out of their homes at a rate that is unprecedented. So with that being said, I know that we want newer amenities and we want a house that's beautiful and updated and modern, but do not dismiss grandma's house. Maybe not your grandma, somebody's grandma. Don't dismiss them. Listen, older homes have been built very well, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to remember that most of these people have a little bit more equity in their home. That means that they have a little bit more money to play with at the back end, at the closing table. So they are able to, contribute to your closing cost or your seller's contributions a little bit more. So even though you might want something beautiful, spick and span, brand new, I highly recommend that you do not discard older homes that are being moved out of because of downgrading. Okay, tip number 2, consider generational living. I know that's weird, right? As Americans, we don't do that, but almost every other country does do this, and it makes a lot of financial sense. If you have 3 generations with 3 homes, that's 3 mortgages, that's 3 sets of groceries, 3 utilities, 3, so many. So if you are thinking, I really want to buy a house and I wish I could have a little, something nicer, but gosh, it's so expensive because, it's so expensive. Listen, consider generational living. Think about it this way. All you have to do is find a place that has either extra rooms or, better yet, maybe something like, a mother-in-law suite. It's very simple. This way, you guys can split the mortgage. And pro tip, if you guys are considering moving in together, you can actually buy the house together, put in for financing together, and that means you can afford a little bit more as per the bank. So don't discard generational living. If you are like me and you love your mother, but you need to keep her at a distance, do consider finding a place that has maybe a mother-in-law suite so you don't have to share walls and you can complain in silence. Tip number 3, do not allow yourself to be house poor, okay? You need to be at 25 to 35% of your take-home pay. The financial institution that you're getting money from is going to go from your gross income. So gross is big and fat, all of the money, but what you need to look at is net take-home pay. So what you can catch in your little net, right? So if you are grossing $1,000 a week, that's wonderful, but what are you netting? You're probably bringing in $875. So make sure that you're staying in that range so that you're not house poor. The worst thing to do is to put yourself in a situation where your home becomes a burden. It truly should become a blessing. When you purchase a home, it's supposed to give you a sense of security and pride and execution for buying this beautiful thing, right? You should feel so good and so proud. And if you're like slaving away and every single dollar goes into the home, you're not going to love the home. It's going to be a burden, not a blessing. So please pay attention. Listen to your realtor. Hopefully your realtor is me, but if it's not me, hopefully they're telling you like, hey, you can't afford this and not just pushing you towards the most expensive thing. That's happening. Huge red flag. No. Your realtor should be being a realist, okay? No fantasy. Oh, well, isn't this kitchen beautiful? You can afford it. If you can't afford it, don't afford it. Look at your net, not your gross. It's very, very important to not put yourself in a financial burden. Tip number 4, give a little wiggle room. Give some wiggle room. You need to make sure that you have 10% less than what you can comfortably afford. I know I just said 25 to 35% of your take-home pay, but you need to make sure you've got a 10% wiggle room. Listen, your taxes and your insurance will change. They will change. So when you buy a home, you think, oh great, this is what I'm going to pay forever because I got a fixed mortgage rate, which you should. If you're getting a variable mortgage rate, that's a video for another time. But you should know what you're paying except for taxes and insurance. They change. So make sure that you have some wiggle room. You don't want to cut yourself short. The next tip is to just simply remember that your rate is not final until you're under contract. So that means from the time of your pre-approval until the time that you actually go under contract, find the house that you want and say, yes, we're going to buy it, and they agree to it, your rate can change. So you need to ask your lender, what would it cost to float down your rate? That means if the rates fall while you're under contract, what does it cost to get that lower rate? That is another thing, right? That you'd have to speak to your lender, but it is something that you need to take into consideration. Hey, I might get a better rate later, but what is that going to cost me? Because, you know, if it costs more to float down the rate than what is feasible in the future, it would be a silly thing to do not to do it. But it is something that you do need to take into consideration. Ask your lender, what would that cost to float down my rate in the case of once we're under contract, rates actually go down? Because they do float around. They change every single day, and you definitely want to get the best rate possible, especially right now. The very next tip is quote your home insurance early, okay? Especially out here. Where I am, we're on the Gulf Coast, so storms happen a lot. They change all the time. Look, I have closed a home in the middle of a Hurricane Beryl, which also, pro tip, if that happens, if you're closing in the middle of a hurricane, make sure you go back before closing and double check and make sure that you still have a roof, and you're not just buying a house with no roof, because they do have to sell it to you in the as-is condition that you went under contract. So that's something your realtor should know. Anyway, make sure that you're quoting your home insurance early so that you know exactly what it's going to cost. And also, if you are somewhere like on the coastal lands, then a home can vary in home insurance by, you know, just a couple blocks sometimes. So make sure that you're doing that and then that fits into the amount of money that you can actually afford and you are not being surprised by anything. Great. So that's the next tip. The other tip is to understand commission. Okay, you need to understand commission. You need to know what it's going to cost. Most realtors, like myself, try to get the money directly from the seller's contributions, but with the way that the laws are going and the way that things are made out, you need to be very clear on where the commission for your real estate agent is going, or where it's coming from, rather. Where did the commission come from? That's the question, right? And what happens if the seller doesn't pay the commission? So for me, it depends on the situation. I always get my commission paid for by the seller. It hasn't happened another way yet. I mean, surely it could. But for me, it has been a moot point. I can pretty much negotiate my salary out of, you know, the seller's agent. But with that being said, make sure that you understand the commission. Make sure that you're asking your agent, if it's not me, ask them, hey, what is this going to cost me? You know, at the closing table, I need to know. Okay. The next tip is get to know the neighborhood, man. Get out there and really know the neighborhood. What does that look like? You need to go right when everybody gets out of school, right? You need to make sure that you are seeing what it actually looks like when people are outside and active. The only way to get to know your new neighborhood is to be there. I also suggest that you go try some local places, right? If there's a coffee shop that's local, if there's anything nearby, if you've got kids and there's a park, take them to the park. Get to really have a feel for the neighborhood so that you know that you're going to be a good, energetic match for that neighborhood. And I will make a video later on exactly what that looks like to get to know your neighborhood. You really need to kind of stalk it out a couple times before you commit. That being said, while you're stalking out the neighborhood, when do you stalk out your house? There's a couple times in the buying process when you want to go look at your house. Obviously, you want to view it before you put in an offer. I always suggest going back a second time too, and just maybe really sealing the deal. I know a lot of agents are like, heck no, don't do that because they're very busy. They don't want to go back. But I want to make sure that you know that you love the house. We are not buying a house that you're not like, yes, I feel good about this, because I want you to always remember this face as like your friend. I don't want you to be like that lady. Like, no, not me. Okay. So I promise to try to be your friend. I'm going to make you see the house a couple times. The other thing that you need to do is you need to go out, while the inspector is there. You don't have to be, but I would suggest it. Also, your agent may or may not be. I always go because I need to know immediately what's going on. And then go after. You need to go after any repairs are done so that you can make sure that they are actually done. And then you need to do a final walkthrough. Oh my gosh, you'll have to view your house so many times. But look, it's your baby now. So you need to get in there and really get to know it and love it. So you're going to go, before you put in a contract, right? Double check to make sure, unless you're moving fast. That is the other caveat to that. If you're moving fast, sometimes you only get one shot. So you're going to look, at least once, sometimes twice, depending on time frame of the market. Then you're going to look after or during inspection, after repairs, and a final walkthrough. So that many times, 4 to 5 times, you are going to walk through that house before it is actually yours. And the final tip is to find a good realtor. Obviously, I'm gonna say vote for me, but if you can't use me because you're not in the area, what a shame. And if you don't wanna use me, I don't know why. And if you already have a realtor, good for you. But make sure that you are using a real estate agent. And I know a lot of times we think, oh man, I don't wanna use one of those. Like, I heard some scary stories. Listen, if you don't like the agent that you're with, fire them and get a new one. Like, it is okay. They might be upsetty spaghetti, but this is your home, your biggest investment. So make sure that you are finding somebody that you like. Real estate is a roller coaster, and you want someone that's going to be there to hold your hand during the scary parts and celebrate with you when you're at the top. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Sarah Vitale. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and until the next time.